Monday, October 3, 2022, DanGryder, probable cause. Just got off the phone with Juan Brown, a Zoom call. He calls me every now and then. I call him. We talk every now and then on stuff. He does mostly airline stuff. You know Juan Brown, BlancoLirio. The subject is the September fatal accident summary here. I just got September's done. Total of about 28 general aviation fatal accidents. About 50 people died. And he and I have decided to start doing maybe a monthly recap. We'll just talk through what the numbers are, kind of how that stuff works, and what the deal is. So I'll cut directly to that Zoom. I'll have you know it's my very first Zoom meeting that I've ever initiated. I've been on several, but I had to initiate this Zoom call, get him to tap into it and record it and edit it. So it's a first for me. It's not perfect, but I think you'll get to see where we're at here. And he and I are probably going to start talking about the general aviation fatal accident rate a little bit more often, maybe once a month when these things come out. And I'm trying to keep a closer tally on this. And so let's cut immediately to my degraded performance video with Juan Blanco. See ya here, Here he is. Well, a degraded performance here today. My computer is bombarded by the taco thief in California. Juan Brown jumped in here. I am minding my own business, and you jump in. What is going on out there?
Same old stuff out here in California. We've got beautiful weather, and the wildfires are giving us a break now. So smoke is clear, and the weather's beautiful. Taxes are up. Gas prices are up.
Weather is here. I wish you were beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, September closed out. We'll jump in there and talk about AQP and general aviation. Juan, you're the guy that combines all the stuff for your channel. You do a lot of heavy stuff. I try to stay out of that, but for general aviation, I keep this running tab sheet here, and I sent you a copy of it. I don't know if that came through, but here's the September data. What do you think of the September data for general aviation?
Well, it doesn't look good the way you got it. It looks like one a day in September. Now, what is the monthly average for fatalities per month?
Well, it's based on hours usage. So the NTSB tracks it by how many fatals per 100,000 hours flight time shown. So we don't have a good way to do that because the big equation there, that's the missing element, is how many hours are we flying. One fatal accident per 100,000 flight hours roughly has translated to about 18 per month over the last. Now, are we flying more? We don't know that.
Right, and that's for the whole year. So we don't know month over month. How does this month of September compared to September of last year, for example?
It's very high. We didn't quite get one a day in September, but it's close. 30 days in September, we had 28 fatals in the month of September, a total of 50 lives lost. 10 of them were on that seaplane crash in Washington. So a fifth of them were in one accident, which kind of inflates the ratio. Right. I've done this for a long time, keeping these up, and when an accident happens within typically 4 or 6 hours, so I've got a notification. I start looking at it, putting it down on scratch paper and taking a look. But there's a lot of them. September, I can't confirm for sure, but I think we're real close to setting a record for the number of fatal accidents and the number of fatalities in the month of September.
Man, and you can put that up on the screen there. And you break it down. What are the different categories? Have you got it broke down by categories, and what's the highest category this month of September?
Well, a lot of them are still a little bit early, and I've never been one to speculate, but it's always loss of control. And some of these are just complete unknowns as of yet. Some of them are so recent. But I do try to break it down by the category and what they did. If it's plainly obvious, they took off, they lost an engine at 400 feet, and you got 5 people that call you and tell you, I heard the engine quit. Typically, when the engine quits, people pull back, so that's a loss of thrust on takeoff. There's not much discussion on that. I think the NTSB tries to focus in and find on the cause of what caused the engine to quit. I really don't care what caused the engine to quit. I want to know what the pilot did when the engine quit.
That brings up another point. Engine failures. Are we not only seeing a problem with, a pilot shortage, maybe a pilot experience shortage, but it seems like are we having a maintenance problem too in general aviation, keeping these old engines running? Are we having a mechanic shortage? Have you got any insight on that?
No, I don't think that we are. Engines are generally reliable, but they
Mhm.
cannot be perfectly reliable. They're a mechanical contraption and they are prone to fail,
Mhm.
and at the worst possible moment. So we as pilots simply have to be ready and anticipating. Most importantly, assume that it's going to fail. Don't assume that it's going to work. Assume it's going to fail, and then if it doesn't, you're okay. But
Mhm.
I think we're seeing a more improper pilot response in the time of crisis. When it happens in shock and surprise, our pilots are doing the wrong thing, and that's what we're seeing. I don't know that we're necessarily failing more engines per month than we normally do. An
Mhm.
engine, an engine is going to fail.
Yep.
You've probably had them at the airlines. I had a couple at the airlines. I mean, as good as we are, and as good as the maintenance is, they're going to fail.
Mhm. Yep. One so far in 23 years, 24 years,
Yeah, I
and a
did
lot
too.
more in the military.
Yeah, they do, and those are turbine. I mean, think about piston.
Mhm.
That's the category there. So I try to break them down by AQP maneuvers. Talk to me about what you've seen as far as AQP at the airlines.
Well, uh, that's what we do. In fact, I'm going to be packing my bags. I'm heading to Dallas, and I'm going back for a week of recurrent training in the 777. And this year, the heads up is that we're getting a scenario that deals with blowing an engine over the Atlantic, and they're going to be looking at specifically our process. Are we following the process of correctly getting off of a track and getting down to an altitude, and the whole diversion process of losing an engine or having some kind of a problem that forces you to divert mid-Atlantic in a non-radar environment without hitting anybody else. So that's one typical scenario that we're getting this year. Last year, it was a scenario where you're losing you lose an engine at cruise in a very high altitude environment where you've got to work your way through some very specific high terrain and do that procedure correctly. And then before we even get to that scenario based training, and it's a whole flight. It's called a loft, and it's a whole flight from takeoff to logical conclusion that you're graded on for your check ride. Before you do that, you have what's called a first look at your ability to do the maneuvers, and those maneuvers again are based off of AQP data. It's sure, you get an engine failure at the worst possible case, V1 rotate, but then we'll change it up a little bit. And what do you do if you got an engine failure in the second phase of your climb? Or what do you do if you got an engine failure on final, for example? Then we'll also go through basic maneuvers like, can you still hand fly these big aircraft? Let's just hand fly a takeoff pattern and approach and landing with the flight directors and everything turned off. And that's a real eye opener in the big aircraft,
Yeah, now
because we do rely on automation.
you've used the word scenario like 8 times in the last 2 minutes. Talk to me
Mm-hmm.
about scenario versus general aviation maneuvers.
Well, it's based off of data that we've acquired over the years with the airlines of what are the things that'll bite you in the ass? What are the things that happen out there on the flight line? What's the most recent accidents we've had out there? And let's build a training scenario around that.
Yes.
And that process takes many years to do. I mean, it takes 2-3 years to just to get the accident investigated, and then it takes a few more years to get approval to build a FAA approved scenario to train everybody on.
Right.
And so we're always, just like the military, we're always fighting the last battle. So the most recent stuff we're not doing in the simulator just yet, but we are doing stuff that has bitten us in the ass many years ago.
Yes. Now that's airlines, and you got it down to a science. AQP is working for you. Tell me
Mm-hmm.
what the FAA has provided for general aviation regarding an AQP philosophy. What have they given us?
Yeah, nothing that I know of.
Nothing.
Now, to their credit, they are reaching out to. The first step is you got to get the data. They can't build anything if they don't have the data. I mean, me and you kind of got the data just, well, how do you call it? Just from keeping tabs on what's going on and making our best educated guess as to what's going on with these accidents. But the FAA cannot build scenario-based training until they have solid data. And so to that end, they are promoting an increase in acquisition of data. With the modern avionics that we're getting in the aircraft today, you are able to pull important data off of that avionics, and they're encouraging folks to buy into a program where they can submit each flight, basically like your 4-flight program has a mountain of data in it. And if you submit that each time, if you're willing to, then we can begin to build a database of data from which to begin to provide, hopefully, scenario-based training for general aviation. But step one, we got to get the data.
Well,
you were just kind of winging it.
Yeah, before step one, that's our U.S. government. It's going to take them 10 years and it's going to be inefficient. In the meantime, I've already built the 20 scenarios. There's 50 ways to leave your lover. There's 20 ways to kill yourself in a GA airplane. These are the most common ones. Not that there aren't a few more on occasion, but we're really not inventing any new ways to kill yourself in a 172. It's always one of these 20 scenarios. Why don't we just, on a volunteer basis, brief ourselves and practice these few scenarios so that in time of crisis, you've actually thought about it, you're actually ready, and you can actually do the right thing because you've studied YouTube, you've looked at the stuff. There's nothing out there that I have that's for sale. All this information on all these YouTube channels, it's free information. What do you do? Engine failure after takeoff. Should you try to return to the airport? Should you lower the nose or should you raise the nose? All this information is for free. We don't have to have the data to the extent that the airlines have in order to simply improve our statistics. And that's what I'm advocating for. People, please just take a look at what we've got and the scenarios. They're giving me 30 examples per month of what the guy did wrong. It's pretty easy to look at. How come we can't just on a volunteer basis start looking at this AQP scenarios and doing better?
It's not 30 different things that are happening each month. Amongst those 30 crashes, they fall into mostly one of 4 or 5 categories.
Heavily into 4 or 5. I've got 20 on my AQP sheet. I'm putting it on the screen here right now, but I've got 20 scenarios that are the most common. Every now and then you'll see a one-off that's
review the top 4 or 5 for us again. What are the recurring themes most common?
Loss of speed awareness, not flying a min maneuvering speed in the pattern, either after takeoff or on the down when we're on base. Loss of speed awareness is number 1.
Yep.
No doubt. Number 2, loss of thrust on takeoff, a close second. Takeoff, lose an engine, the natural reaction is to pull and you're dead. Rejected takeoff is a high one. VFR into IMC is huge. That's the one I just did a video on. The guy took off and flew into IMC and he ended up killing himself in that Bonanza. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. So every month there's 4 or 5 rejected takeoff. Rejected takeoff is not even an honorable mention to the FAA for the private pilot level. They don't even talk about it. If you make a takeoff and you don't have a proper thrust and proper acceleration and you stumble your aircraft into the air when you should have rejected, you're going to die. And the FAA doesn't even give you that metric for how to decide whether to abort your takeoff and abort it early. They don't even tell you about it.
AQP now, time to raise awareness. Now, what's going on with, we just lost a DPE recently out here in Northern California. What's going on with the number of DPEs nationwide, and why is it becoming so hard to get our training and check rides accomplished on the private through commercial level?
Perfect question. There's supposed to be 1,200, minimum 1,200 DPEs. Right now, there's about 800 active DPEs. We're down 400. FAA has launched this initiative in the last 2 years. They're going through and arbitrarily firing DPEs for no reason. The big beef I have with this, and my buddy Dave Fogarty in Florida lost his DPE. Dave was so distraught over this. Dave went out over the ocean and committed suicide in his own airplane over this. He's just one of hundreds of DPEs. DPEs do not have a Bill of Rights. They don't have a union. The FAA has brainwashed DPEs into thinking that it's an honor to get to work for the FAA. Truth is, it's a two-way street. It's an honor for the FAA to use our civilian men and women to perform that function for the FAA. Without our contract volunteers DPE force, the FAA would completely cavitate. Training would shut down. Everything would shut down. There's no Bill of Rights. There's no union. If you're a DPE and you get fired, you have no recourse. You have no due process. You don't have anything as a DPE, and that's a crime. And I'm going out to, there's a DPE symposium in Phoenix on October 11th. I'm going out there on October 11th to talk to as many DPEs as I can. This needs to change. The FAA needs to sit up and pay attention and respect the DPEs and the function that they're doing. Every now and then there is a DPE that does something wrong or does something illegal or intentional. I get that. If that happens, there should be a process for dealing with it. FAA going in and arbitrarily firing these guys, most of the time when the FAA fires a DPE, all the DPE knows is that they go to log into their DPE credentials and they can't log in. They don't even get a phone call. They don't get a visit. They get nothing. They just get terminated, no questions asked, and not even a little visit like, hey, let's talk about this. That's not the way the FAA is doing it, and it's barbaric. It's KGB, and I'm totally fired up about what they have done to our DPEs.
DPE, for those of you, we'll put a little banner up there, designated pilot examiner, because the FAA does not have enough manpower to do all the check rides, so they've got to designate pilots out there that meet the requirements to be a designee or a representative for the FAA to give people their check rides. Now, what about the hiring side of DPE? Are they hiring? Are they rehiring? Are they backfilling in any of these slots?
Supposedly, but not near fast enough. In our deficit for having pilots, we're relying on the DPE community to get this job done. FAA is wiping them out as fast as they can hire them. You're going to see an even more pronounced pilot shortage in the future. Can't get flight training done, can't get check rides done, having to travel strange distances to find an examiner. The whole thing is completely absurd. And
why are they losing these DPEs?
They're firing them.
Why?
There's your $1 million question. Why would our government be doing these to people that, like Dave Fogarty, a perfect DPE with a great record, well respected by everybody. He did his job effectively. He was a great DPE. You know, you got the Ken guy in Texas, same thing, got fired. Ken was a fantastic DPE. It has to do with politics. It's a good old boy system. Who knows who? And the FSDO has way too much power. One guy with no supervision, with a stroke of a pen, can fire a DPE, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, we'll need to get some more information on that, because this is the first I've heard of this purge going on.
That's why we're talking. I'm fixing to get fired up. I'm going to Phoenix on October 11th. I'm going to visit with as many DPEs as I can, but it's a two-way street. These DPEs need to form a union and simply stop work until the FAA gives them a Bill of Rights like pilots have and offers them due process. You can't arbitrarily go in and fire a guy and not even tell him why. That's
now, a DPE works as an independent contractor, correct? He charges his own rates. He is not a government employee. He does not get subsidized by the government at all, correct?
Correct. Right. That's all. It's all correct. And that's it. That's all I got. I know you've got to get up and get a shower and shave. I noticed that you've been lacking a little bit on your beauty sleep here lately.
Go.
You're a man on the move for sure, but you're starting to improve a little bit. I'm going to send you a beauty kit in the mail.
One of those first class kits that you got from the airlines with the eye patches.
I got a closet full of those things.
Yeah. Good. Step one of your stickers on there and send it off.
Yeah, that's it. Hey, are you going out on a trip today, or where are you going?
No, I gotta get out there to Dallas to do my, like I said earlier, the annual recurrent training in the
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. So we're gonna
recurrent.
Week in the sim.
Yeah, that's it. All right, brother. Well, I appreciate it. I'm gonna put this video up and on the air. This is just a break for what's going on, but appreciate talking, and we'll
keep us updated on that DPE thing, and keep us. I like the monthly summary of the general aviation stuff. That's a good format. Let's keep that rolling.
Absolutely. And I'm fixing to launch DB Cooper Part 2 this November. DB Cooper Part 2, you're not going to believe what I'm going to put in DB Cooper Part 2. I have uncovered the most unbelievable video is going to be in Part 2. So I know you'll be waiting. We'll get a taco together to watch that. That's going to be a premiere. That's going to be a 2-hour and 40-minute video when that one comes out.
Get to the point. Goodness sakes. All right.
I'm going to.
All right. Very good.
All right, brother. Have a good. We'll see you.
Okay. See you here.
All right. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that. It was just a short call to go over some things here. The DB Cooper thing is fascinating. The DPE thing, I'll keep you updated on that. I'm going to be out in Phoenix at the Marriott, Airport Marriott, for the evening there on October 11th. If you're a DPE or if you're a pilot and want to see me, I'm going to be in the lobby in the area from 4 p.m. all the way through dinner and after dinner. I'd love to talk to you. You DPEs, I really want to talk to you because we've definitely got a problem here. I think we need to group think this thing and find a better way because the FAA themselves is never going to help you guys. So let's see if we can get that done. The rest of you guys out there, let's do a little bit better on our general aviation scenarios, our AQP scenarios. Try to stay alive for me because I just don't have time to do all these accidents. 30 a month, 28 a month. It's way too many. Don't forget Airborne Animal Rescue. That's my website for supporting me, whether you're supporting the animals or supporting me. $1 or $2 helps a tremendous amount. Electronic, it's totally safe. Zelle, PayPal, Venmo, or CashAPP. Here's the things on the screen. Zelle, PayPal, Venmo, or CashAPP. Please, my kids need shoes. We're out of milk. We're low on, I need a tire for the car. So $1 or $2, if you appreciate what we're doing. I can't tell you how time consuming this whole YouTube thing is, and I'm totally unsupported because I have no YouTube advertising, I got no YouTube revenue, I got no Patreon, I got no sponsors. I'm doing 100% of this myself with my cell phone and my banjo. If you enjoy the content and appreciate it and you're learning off of it, $1 is an appropriate gift towards that. If not, I totally get it and I understand and I appreciate that a lot. Let's I don't have a guitar outro or anything for this thing because I got to get it up and on the air, and I appreciate you watching. We'll try to do one of these a month with Juan Brown, the taco thief out there in California, for my tiny little itty bitty fledgling YouTube channel, DanGryder. Problem cause.